Hello, hello, USU listeners. I am so honored to be here with you. Thank you for taking your time and setting aside this delicious this time for a delicious conversation with Lee Hayes, a woman that I've gotten to know over the last few years who is such a sweetheart and has incredible experience. For those of you who are interested in speaking on stages, getting more out there, making more of an impact, you're gonna love this conversation. So let me tell you about Lee first before you get to meet her. After years working as an event integration agent, both representing professional keynote speakers and hiring speakers for event planners, Lee Hayes endeavored to get more speakers to the main stage. Lee launched Path to the Main Stage, a speaker development program to provide the behind-the-scenes secrets that speakers need to know about the business of speaking. Path to the Main Stage gives emerging leaders and speakers who use the stage as a way to accelerate their business the skills that they need to build successful speaking businesses. We're going to have everything in the show notes, but if you would like to check out Lee and all of what she is doing with Path to the Main Stage, you can find her at pathtothemainstage.com/main. Okay, Lee, I'm so happy you're here. We met actually through a speaking engagement. I think that we connected on that you helped me to do. And I was like, what a cool powerhouse woman. I'm so happy to have you here.
Yeah, indeed. I did. I hired you for an event and you were awesome. So I'm so glad we got to stay in touch and are doing this now. It's wonderful.
So great. I'm honored. And I'd love to share a little bit of your backstory, because I think something I say often is when I'm interviewing people that are really like have developed something amazing and you're stepping into what you're meant to do, I'm guessing it wasn't always this way. I mean, I'm assuming there might've been a time where maybe you weren't sure what you wanted to do, or, you know, there was a breakdown or something that happened to kind of, you know, I know it's not all roses and it's not all linear. It's one thing I know with entrepreneurship and running a business. And maybe you can just share a little bit, a story or two that kind of depicts a little bit of your journey getting to this place.
Absolutely. So my big journey was unemployment. I was working in big pharma, huge company, right? And we were a division of the company. And I was the director of human resources. So my job was actually working, it's funny, not only doing events, but, you know, hiring people, firing people, development. And I get a phone call noon on a Sunday. And the call was, hey, Lee, we're having an executive meeting today at 3. We need you to come into the office on a Sunday at 3. That's not a good sign.
No.
So I went in, and here are all these people from the domestic corporate office, from the overseas office. And they say, we're closing the division. We need you to fire 272 people over the next 2 years, and don't let the door hit you on the way out. That's the short version. So basically you're going to be unemployed in 2 years, and you're going to be miserable for the next 2 years because you're just going to be firing people. So that was my big pivot. And when I got toward the end of this time, my brother contacted me. He is a professional speaker. He does big stages. And he said, so sis, you have nothing to do right now, which is true. Because I had to go in the office. But as we got down toward the end, we had a couple dozen people working. I was literally taking apart shelving and cleaning laboratories because there was nothing to do, but I had to be there. So he said, you have nothing to do. Would you mind acting as my agent for a few weeks? I need somebody to handle calls, follow leads. I fired my agency. Could you help? So sure, why not, right? So I did it for a few weeks and I loved it. And that was the beginning of a career as a speaker agent for me. I love putting the spotlight on other people, and I never knew it. I never knew it. I love doing that. So that's the big story. Become unemployed and the world will be your oyster.
That I'm laughing. And I don't mean like I'm not, if someone's listening and you're unemployed, I'm not laughing at that, but I love what you said, the way that the gift in it was like, this is clearly not in alignment, and just having that amazing opportunity with your brother, and then to realize like, oh my gosh, and I love it. Like, what a neat serendipitous experience.
Right. Well, unemployment was a big door, right? It was a big door smacking me in the face. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And then a brother, I was like, I don't know if I want to work for him in an industry I was completely unfamiliar with. was a tiny little window. And I said,
Mhm.
let's jump, let's just go.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
there's the message, right? Take opportunities. Even if you don't think it's a big opportunity, it could be.
Mm. Amazing. How long ago was that? And maybe tell us a little bit about how you developed this beautiful business that you have now.
Yeah, how many 6 years ago, I think it was. So yeah, and it just slowly built over time. I did, and it wasn't that I just became a full-time speaker agent, right? I did other things and I had to build it up. But really, it's just been this upward journey over half a decade of learning the business and seeing what works and doesn't work. And I think my experience as an agent, because I started working with all these different speakers. And then what would happen is you work with speakers, and then the clients, because if a client's happy, then they come back to you and say, do you have somebody else, or how can we help? So that's really how I became an integration agent. Was some agents just they manage their speakers, that's it, one and done.
Right.
And then you have event planners who work for a particular company and are looking to fill events for them. And I wound up in the middle. And that's, you mentioned it's sort of an interesting title, but event integration agent is because I try to make clients happy by bringing them amazing speakers and vice versa. I bring people together for events, and that's what the success has been, but it's been a journey.
Wow. Well, so my ears went to, and I'm curious. I know many of you listeners, because I know I'm so grateful. I hear from many of you what's going on and your interests. And there are many I know that are interested in becoming speakers, want to make a bigger impact, especially right now, want to get their message out, and which I think is awesome. We need as much positive, or I shouldn't say only positive, but we need people that are looking to add value to the world and uplift it. We need that. So I'm curious, you talked a little bit about what you've learned works and doesn't work,
Mhm.
maybe even like learning from some of the best, some of what not to do. Be kind of fun. Would that be cool to just talk for a few minutes about what you've learned, like about speakers, and what makes a good speaker, what makes for a negative experience, maybe some of those details.
Absolutely. It's so interesting. In the beginning, when I was working with speakers, I would ask them how an event went, right? So I work with about a dozen people, how to go. And almost all the time they'd go, oh, the event planner loved it, right? You get off the stage. They said, I was great. I scored a 9.8. Here's the thing. Asking an event planner how you did is like asking a friend how you did. They're not going to conflict with you. They just hired you. You just got off the stage. They're running this event.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who's gotten off the stage and the event planner went, let's talk for a minute. This is what I didn't really like. They don't want to go there, right? They're running an event. So they go, you were awesome. But then I started calling event planners and other parts of the triad that's involved in the hiring. And I would follow up a week or 2 or 3 later or whatever it was and say, how did they do? Well, by then, I often got different feedback. We really liked them, but, right? So I got the buts of what not to do. So here are my big tips for emerging speakers. Here are the things that even big stage speakers do wrong.
Okay.
And I don't have these written down anywhere, so I'm going to do them off the top of my head. Timing. Timing is huge. It is a fundamental skill that any speaker can get. If you get on a stage and they say, we'd like you to speak for 45 minutes, you should finish speaking between 44 and 46 minutes. That's it. You should not end at 20 minutes, because now you've left dead air and the poor event planner standing there going, but lunch isn't being served for half an hour. What do I do?
Yeah.
And conversely, right, if you just keep rambling on, which I've seen speakers do. I saw this one speaker once. Oh my goodness. She literally refused to get off the stage. It was a disaster. The event planner's going, somebody get her off the stage. They just kept going. But it's something that any speaker should be able to do right. And here's some of the tips how to do it. One is, there are smartwatches now. You can set them to vibrate. So what you do is, if you're on for 45 minutes, you have it vibrate at 30 and then 40 and then 42. So you know your time is coming, right? Or you have somebody in the back of the room that holds up the sign, or you have a timer, or you have a confidence monitor, or whatever it is, but you need to have a way to end appropriately.
Yeah.
And practice, right? Practice. Just do it a few times so you nail the timing. Timing is huge. If you mess up timing, event planners won't have you back because you messed up their day.
Yeah.
Another big one, oh, this is the biggest one, connecting with the audience.
Mm.
And this is even really big speakers. I was talking to big corporation, won't mention their name. Big speaker, won't mention his name, not one of mine. But I said, hey, I noticed you had big speaker headlining, because they had my speaker as like not the big keynote, but the next one. How'd you like him? And they said, yeah, he was good, but he didn't connect with our audience. He sort of talked at us, but not with us. Here's a tip. You need to connect with the audience. And the best way to do that is to talk with the event planner, the event owner, whoever, do a pre-call and say, what are your objectives? What is it about me that you want me to bring to the stage? Who is going to be in the audience? And most important, what is their language? What are the words, the terms that they use that I should use? Now, I'm not asking you to rewrite your keynote. Nobody needs to rewrite their keynote. I call it the 2% pivot, right? The difference between us and orangutans, our genetic code, is there's a 2% difference. Yet we seem hugely different, right? Same thing with your keynote. If you have a keynote written, you can change it by 2% and vastly change the look and feel of it so that your audience feels like it's for them. Yeah. In other words, do they use the word client or do they use the word customer? Because if you use the wrong one, it feels odd. Like if you were speaking for Disney, you're not an employee, you're a cast member. And just using those terms makes them feel like, oh, she gets us, yeah. Right? Because you're using their language. So very important to connect with the audience. Profanity, here's a huge one. And I don't mean, some people are rip snorting swears on stage and that's what they're known for, and that's okay.
Right.
I know some speakers, some of them who work with me, that will swear once or twice at a key moment in the middle of their keynote, and it brings the house down. Everybody laughs. What they don't realize is every now and then they'll be talking to an audience where that's not okay. Yeah. And even though it's just once or twice, and even though everybody laughs, they'll never hire them again. I actually had that happen recently, that a group that has hired my speaker 2 consecutive years, and this is the 3rd year, I said, hey, do you want him to come back again? And they went, ooh, he F-bombed. I'm like, yeah. And he said, everybody laughed. And she said, oh, no. We have a certain religious group. They were very offended, even though there were only a few members. Can't have him again. And I said, well, he won't swear again. They said, nope, too late. Can't do it again. Wow. Like now we've offended our audience. We can't have him back. So there are just 3 keys, but those are huge little things that will make or break your speaking career. These are really, really good tips and wisdom that you've gleaned over the years. I'm curious now, with a lot of these speaking events being virtual, if there's anything else you would add to that or shift. I mean, I can imagine just what I've seen a little bit. I would think the engagement and connecting is that much more important, because you're literally, you're all in these little square tiles. Yeah. Do you feel that these all apply to virtuals, or anything else that you've learned with the virtual world that maybe just will help who knows how long we'll be doing virtual events, but it might be a little longer. Yeah. I mean, the one that I shouldn't have to say, but I'm going to say it, is, oh my goodness, folks, basic technology. Speak to your camera. Yeah. High density, right? High definition camera. Do not speak to where the picture is, because then you look like this, right? You need to look at the camera. Right. You need to have a decent mic. You need to have a decent headset. You need to have decent lighting and things going on. I'm sure you see this all the time still too, that the second it starts, you go, oh, that person's on their laptop. And there's just sort of this grainy background. They're looking down at it. You are a professional speaker. You should never be shooting any video off your laptop camera in your regular room with your laundry behind you. And speakers do it all the time. Yeah. They don't think about it. And professionals do it. I was watching Stephen Colbert, and he had, I think it was Kate Winslet on. Sorry, Kate, but here you go. he's talking with her. First of all, the picture quality was terrible, right? This is when COVID first started. I'm sure she was on her laptop. And all of a sudden he's talking to her and he goes, are you in pajamas? And she goes, oh my God, can you see that? She didn't realize the camera angle was big enough that she was wearing, and it wasn't like nice pajamas. They were scruffy little jammies.
Right.
Be professional. Think about what's behind you and around you. Don't have a window behind you. I see that all the time with professional speakers, the window behind them, and you get a silhouette.
Yeah.
So technical on webinars. And here's the big secret though, learn to do something different. And I don't know what that necessarily means. I saw one guy who he had a smart chart next to him. So he ran PowerPoint, but not as a screen share, but next to him. So he was able to demonstrate it. It was wild. It was great. Another guy set up glass between him and the camera. And somehow between, like with mirrors and all these things, he was able to write on the glass all around himself.
Wow. Cool.
Wild, right? So if you're going to be doing a lot of Zoom webinars, and a lot of people are, be creative, be innovative, do something that when people are just watching, that they are intrigued, right? Not by just what you're saying, but how you're saying it and what you're doing. Let's be innovative. This is the time now, right? This is the great leveler. Do something amazing, and it might be something little, but be creative.
Love it. No, these are great. So any other stories, or I guess, I think we've hit most of them. It's just kind of, it's so great. I think you learn so much sometimes from what not to do. Like you talked about the timing, like just being really on it with your timing, practice and knowing that timing, connecting with your community, your audience, like knowing their language. I love that. Like knowing what are their words they use. So really not going in cold. And I would think virtually too, it really shouldn't matter, because if you're, virtually.
Yeah, know the audience for any event.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. Where was it? I had done an event. This was, a year ago with a really big company. And it was there was a women's, group that was meeting afterwards. And there was a speaker who kept showing slides and speaking, talking about men and saying he. And I was like, hello, do you not, I was watching this. I was one of the speakers too. And I'm like, yeah, you want to know, like if you're speaking to all women, you're going to want
like,
really,
there's not a man in the audience.
There's not a man, or I don't know, maybe someone does identify as male, but I didn't think so. It didn't seem that way. So you might want to shift a little bit. So I guess that might be as well, like really know who you're speaking to. And yeah.
And it's funny. It's so great you brought that up. That goes both ways. And I've seen it more with women. That women, they feel comfortable speaking to other women, so they endeavor to speak before women's groups. And then I'll say, well, have you not gotten these other big companies? And they'll go, well, I don't seem to be able to get these big companies. I tend to get women's groups. And the thing is, if you want a big job in front of a gender diverse group, not just women, but women, men, whatever, you need to speak in a gender neutral way. And when I say gender neutral, I don't mean you need to say they and them all the time, but you have to, like you said, you need female examples, you need male examples. You can't, because sometimes examples that are gender specific are uncomfortable for the other gender. This one woman, she was talking about how her skirt got stuck in her pantyhose. And while the women were laughing hysterically, the men are like, that's a little weird,
Right.
So think about your audience.
Yeah. Think about who you're, really do research, connect. This is great. We had spoken beforehand a little bit. We had a fun conversation and just talking about, you were saying, just what you've been watching and noticing in getting people to come to you and with applications and wanting different speaking jobs, and that what you see works and what you see doesn't work. And I know I'll let you say about it, but I thought it was so interesting about the importance of having a tribe or community, and the importance of good feedback. Maybe you can say more, Lee, because I thought that would be helpful for anyone listening.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to become a successful speaker, having a tribe really helps. And I don't mean a tribe of your friends, right? Because friends support you. They're not going to fix you. Yeah, those jeans do make you look fat, right? You're not going to get that from your friends. But if you have business peers, speaker peers, if you have a tribe that is a learning tribe, right? A mastermind, a speaking group, like National Speakers Association or Women's Speakers Association or Path to the Main Stage, where you're going to actually get learning to make yourself better. I mentioned this before, right? You can only see the world through your own eyes. You only have your own viewpoint. And the way you get other people's viewpoints, the way you can have empathy, is by observing and listening to others and getting feedback from others. And I have found, because you're right, I do call for speakers. I will look for people for certain jobs. And I have found that invariably, speakers who have tribes behind them, who are members of associations, who have taken coaching classes, who have taken training, put out a better product.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not just like, oh, I think this is good. I like it. I think it's okay. But you've had other people look and say, okay, it's good, but here's what's working and here's not what's working for me. And I'm the potential client.
Yeah.
So that's the feedback you need. You might think it's great. You've got to hear what others want because you want to speak for others. You want to speak to them. And for you to speak to them, you have to understand what they're looking for.
Yeah, really well said. No, it's great. I think sometimes, we were talking about this a little before earlier with feedback. I see it as one of the biggest gifts that you can get, because otherwise, like you said, I can only see my life through my eyes, what I'm doing. And that's one perspective of probably infinite perspectives, or certainly not the perspective of an ideal client or person you want to work with. So really allowing yourself to be vulnerable and open to receiving that. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I'm kind of the type, I bet if you're listening, you're like this too, but I'm the type that's like, please, for the love of everything, give me feedback. Like I don't know if I don't hear from you or hear what worked or what didn't. So it's actually, I see it as a big gift. I really do.
Yep, you're absolutely right. It's a gift. And it's hard though. It's hard to get feedback because even if it's not necessarily negative, but if you go, wow, I think this is really working for me. And then somebody says, no, the other one was better.
Yeah.
Your human nature is to go, no, I know myself pretty well and I know this is working better.
Yeah.
Like you said, you need to be a little vulnerable. You need to be a little open to suggestion. And you don't have to take every suggestion, right? But you should hear every suggestion.
Yeah.
And then do what feels right to you.
Love that. So I'm wondering for those that are newer, I work with a lot of new coaches. I train them. I have a lot of these amazing coaches that haven't maybe yet written a book or maybe just about to, that want to get on stages, that want to speak more. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've all started there. Do you have any recommendations if you're just starting to get into this industry or wanting to speak more? Like, where do you begin? It kind of reminds me of the acting world, like the commercials. I remember when I was like, I've got one little thing on my resume. You have to kind of build it. And maybe it's similar for speaking.
So the most important thing with speaking, and I have a whole module about this to really specifically teach people how to do it, is, like you meant, you need celebrity. The more that you are known, which is what celebrity is. Celebrity doesn't mean TV necessarily. It just means people know you.
Right.
The smaller the group, the greater your celebrity can be. Okay. So if you just say, I'm going to speak to, the fitness arena, the fitness group, there are millions of people who are somehow in fitness. And if you are one person among millions, you're a dot. But if you say, you know what, I'm going to speak to micro gyms owned by women that are single location facilities, like single location businesses. That's my target market. Well, now your market's gone from here to here. Right. Now there are 1,000 people Well, when you're one among 1,000, people get to know you. They're like, oh, Julie, she is the expert on whatever it is, coaching women who are going to micro gyms and are in a unique environment versus a chain.
Yeah.
Like nobody's better than her. She is the expert. So that's my recommendation is if you want to speak, look at the market, and there's steps you can go through to get this, but you need to work on this market till you find the sweet spot, the star, this really tight market where you can come in and tweak your keynote a little bit, all right, 2%, that you speak exactly to that group. You are the person they need to go to because you're the expert. And then once you've become the expert there, then you can start growing it out again.
Yeah.
Right. Once you're known, then other people go, oh, wait a minute, Julie, you are the expert for micro gyms for women. Can you talk to micro gyms for men too? Oh, yeah, sure, I can do that. Yeah. Can you talk to people at yoga studios too? Yeah, I can do that. Right. But don't start with, oh, I can talk to anybody in the fitness field because nobody's going to know who you are. Yeah. So there's the number one tip. Make it smaller. Smaller is better.
So great. This is really great. It's kind of like, reminds me when you're figuring out like who you really want to work with, you want to get your niche. You want to get that as clear, clean, and simple as possible. It sounds very similar. This makes a lot of sense.
But it's hard to do. It's really hard to do because it's so tempting when you're a speaker to go, okay, I tried that, Leah, and I didn't get that one job I wanted. I'm going to go for everybody. Right. And then you water down again.
Yeah, no, I'm like, I've been there. I totally get it. And when like, I really could deliver this to this group and this group, but I love what you're saying is smaller is better. Start smaller and get to be known there and grow from there. It's really wise. Path to the main stage. Can you talk a little bit about what you've created and what you do there, and just for people to have a better understanding?
Yes, this is my baby and it's only going to grow and get better. But what I started with when I created Path to the Main Stage was a resource for people who want to grow their speaking careers, primarily to grow their business, right? Many people who are consultants or service providers or something like that use speaking as a way to grow their business. And Path to the Main Stage helps them with the business of speaking. So about the only thing I don't do there is it's not a lot of description about how you should move your hand when you spoke to be more powerful, or how you should breathe. Down the road, I'm going to have that because I'm going to actually bring in experts who do that. But what it is, it's the business of speaking. It's what I call the essential but unsexy side of the speaking business.
Okay.
Who makes hiring decisions? How do you get a job? How do you negotiate contracts? What does your social media need to be like? All the background stuff, how to communicate with clients, all the things that I saw speakers missing on. Sometimes I'd see a great speaker and great speakers don't always necessarily have great speaking careers. Just because they're great on stage doesn't give them a huge career.
Yeah.
And conversely, I think one of the moments that opened my eyes is I was watching this one guy and he goes, you know what? I'm not that great of a speaker, but I have an amazing speaking business because I'm good at the business of speaking. And I thought, that's what's missing.
Yeah.
There are a lot of speakers out there who need to be better at it, at the business of it, and who need to recognize that speaking is not just an art, it's a business.
Yeah. Excellent. No, it's so helpful. And I'm just thinking if that speaks to you, can anyone listening to check out your website. And I mean, I can just say from my experience working with you, it was so delightful. You're on it. And it was like, it was fun.
Oh, cool. Well, it's a lot of, what the site, it's an online program. It's a lot of videos. You watch videos of, each different component. There are resources there. There are templates there you can use. And then I also do, once a month coaching calls. So we can all get together and ask a question, and you get to hear what other people are thinking, what their questions are, and grow as a group. It's a group of peers.
So one of the questions before we begin to wrap, I always am curious about this one. I think it connects to all of this, but this podcast is called the USU, right? Mm-hmm. And I always like to ask, what does that mean to you? And how are you who is your USU in the world? And how do you see yourself wanting to fully self-express, especially now, but down the road? What does that mean to you? How do you see yourself kind of expanding in the world? What kind of legacy are you looking to leave? You know, anything like that.
I think somehow I have like the ultimate introvert legacy, which is
Uh,
I like to be the behind the scenes person. I like to see other people succeed. Do you ever have this when you buy a gift for somebody and they open it up and you go, nailed it, right? It's the best gift. They love it. Their face lights up. I like to be the person who gave that gift, and I like to shine the spotlight on other people. I love to see other people's success because helping them be successful at what they're doing means I was successful at what I did. So that brings me joy. Putting a spotlight on other people makes me happy, and that's my goal, is to enjoy life. It's once around. You could be dead tomorrow. I see way too much of that because I have family that's in they're first responders.
Mm.
You need to enjoy what you're doing, and I love doing this.
Beautiful. Oh, I love that. I'm like, oh, we could unpack the introvert thing. There's a lot there, but I love that. Well, it's like owning that part of you that really loves to help others to shine. And honestly, I'm trying to think of the documentary I watched. It might've been on a friend of mine was telling me about Celine Dion and how there's a documentary, how it took like 75 people to help her to get on stage. Like you think, oh, she's just up on stage. No, it took like a huge, but I love that. Like, to have that person shine, like we need all of us. And that's beautiful. That's really powerful. And so cool that you're doing that you were lovingly let go or released from the pharmaceutical company, and now have really had this serendipitous opportunity that led into something you love. And I think that's the message for everyone. It's kind of where we started, is just to pay attention, to tune in, like those coincidences, serendipitous moments, those synchronicities. Often, I have a magnet on my fridge that says small opportunities often lead to big life-changing events and big things. And you really followed that, Lee. It's really beautiful.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, it's been a great path. And, it's funny, when I was younger, for all you youngsters watching, when you're younger, you think it's about the destination, right? It's getting there. It's when will I be old enough? When will I succeed? When will I get to the certain role? And then as you get a little older and a little wiser, not smarter, when you get wiser, you realize that you're there, right? You're there now. And you have to enjoy now, and you plan for tomorrow, but enjoy the whole pathway. Don't worry about getting to the destination. By the time you get there, it might have moved anyway. Just enjoy the whole journey.
So well, thank you for saying that. That is really powerful. I know I'm always working on that. And I'm guessing if you're listening, you might sometimes find yourself out of the moment, in the past, regurgitating the past, or worried about the future. And that is really powerful. Thank you. Thank you for being here, for being you, and just shining the light on what's possible, and allowing me to shine the light on you for a little bit. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. It was so great to see you and great to be here. And I appreciate it more than you know.
Aw, thank you. And I just want to say thank you to my beautiful listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope, as always, that this added deeper insight and inspiration. And please, please, please stay in touch. Let me know. Let us know. How are you doing? How are you applying these ideas? What's going on in your life? Like, really, really, we want to know. I want to hear from you. You can find me always at Facebook at the USU Community for Soul Seekers. You can always connect with me through the website, and just want you to know that I'm grateful for you, and I'm sending you love and blessings.